The astrology of August 2025 is powerful, which is no surprise given all of the intense astrology that we have been experiencing this year thus far, and one could argue, honestly, for the last couple of years. This is one of the most historic times in astrological history, and I do not exaggerate when I say that. So, of course, August is going to be a little wild, but I actually feel really good about August, okay? All things considered, with the bullshit going on in the world, there's a lot of really great astrology that I think is going to pierce through the veil of confusion and fog, and we're going to talk about that in this video. So at the very beginning of the month, right from July 31st into August 1st, we're going to have a Mercury Cazimi, which actually is a little weird, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And then we have Venus enter Cancer, which she will stay there until August 25th, which is literally hours after Mercury ends its post-shadow phase. So that synchronicity is actually really amazing. August 7th is actually probably one of the biggest transits we'll talk about today, which is Mars entering Libra, and it will aspect all of the outer planets, creating a grand trine. And this is actually really, really important to note. And yeah, guys, and I also believe that this will interfere and interact with Mercury as well as it's preparing to go direct. So we're going to talk more about that. Then August 9th, we have a full moon in Aquarius in the second decan, and we're going to talk about the decan, of course, because you know that I work heavily with the decans in astrology. We're going to talk about the tarot card, of course, that's associated with that decan, which always provides the flavor of what the lunation cycle will bring. And then August 11th, Mercury goes direct, so that's going to be something we definitely talk about, while Jupiter conjuncts Venus. So the benefics are together, conjunct in Cancer. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, and that is actually a really big transit that I will need to break down in a future video. Just like all these transits we're going to talk about in the monthlies, guys. I mean, these are all going to be separate individual videos that I have to go in detail with. So, I mean, many of you guys know my monthlies aren't like massive opuses where I go into every little nitty-gritty detail, but this is a transit that is going to need special attention, because in a world that seems like it's crumbling and falling out of control and blah, 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 which, you know, to one extent it is, because Pluto in Aquarius is literally destroying an old world to birth a new one. To me, this Jupiter-Venus conjunction is lovely because it's going to provide, I think, insight in an emotional wave of just hope, potentially. That's what I pray for. And then at the end of the month, we have a new moon in Virgo, okay? This new moon begins eclipse season. This new moon is falling at 0 degrees. This is massive, okay? And again, this is going to require an intense, full-on video towards the end of August. But this new moon, it's falling in the first decan, of course, of Virgo, which we've talked about before recently when Mars entered Virgo in the beginning of the summer. So we talked about this first decan a little bit, and we talked about this tarot card associated with it, and it really did set up the flavor of a lot of things that Mars was up to this summer. And Mars is still in Virgo at the time of this recording, so that flavor of Mars in Virgo is not going anywhere until August 7th, okay? Which is coming really, really quick. I mean, the summer is flying by, or the winter if you're in Australia. I mean, it's insane, isn't it? I mean, time is just accelerating at a pace that I can't even keep up with. So the new moon in Virgo is actually really important to talk about. And then the last major thing of the month, which I'm not even sure if I'm going to touch on 100% in detail, is Venus entering Leo. So literally all of August is Venus in Cancer. So a really beautiful time for Venus to sort of just flow over the Cancer energies and all of the experiences and karma that we've accumulated over the past year, right? With the Mars retrograde and just so much stuff. So having Venus cruise through Cancer with Jupiter is actually kind of a beautiful synchronicity. It's a beautiful omen for things to provide, I think, hope, clarity, and beauty, harmony, and just good vibes. I mean, that's really all I can say, my friends. So today, I want to actually start off a little bit with the Mercury Cazimi, really quick, guys. And again, like I said earlier, if you know me from my other videos and just my work here, generally speaking, the monthlies aren't like, I mean, yeah, they can be long, and I'm going to do my best to not make this 40 something minutes, but my monthlies really are just skimming over subtle details, which sometimes I can't help myself and I go a little too deep. But my intention is to kind of just brush over these to the best I can, where we can all kind of head into the next video that I make and the other videos I will produce in August, where we can kind of just get a taste of what this is all about, because you know I love spending time on the individual videos I make here. And so just for the record, like if it seems like I'm skimming over stuff or not like paying attention too heavily on something, it's because I'm going to be making deeper videos on this. Now, this Mercury Cazimi, I'm not sure if I'm going to make an entire video on, because Cazimis really are worth just a couple of comments, honestly, in my opinion, on, because really a Cazimi is when a planet comes together and conjoins the sun, and it is said that the planet enters the heart of the sun and purifies it. So essentially, when a planet accumulates the karma throughout whatever transit it's having, whatever zodiac sign it's in, whatever whole sign house it's in for you, when the sun conjoins it, it is said to enlighten the planet, to clarify it, to purify it. So what's interesting about this Cazimi is that Mercury will be at 9 degrees, the sun will be at 8 degrees on July 31st. And then on August 1st, the sun and Mercury switch degrees at the exact same time, where they're not even totally making a Cazimi for a long period of time. I mean, it must literally be for less than an hour, and then the sun becomes 9 degrees and Mercury switches to 8 degrees. So they literally pass each other so quick. And to me, this is kind of a weird Cazimi, because it's almost like Mercury doesn't totally have a chance to get purified and enlightened the way a normal Cazimi would, where they kind of hover together maybe for a day or two. So for me, this is actually interesting, because it's like Mercury's retrograde process isn't really giving us a chance to totally find the enlightenment we need until it goes direct in a couple of, about a week or so later. But I do find it significant that we can still technically call it a Cazimi. So I do want to say, hey, the beginning of August really does start the process of overcoming whatever decision-making issues or clarity blocks that we've been having involving the Leo part of our life, okay? And of course, Mercury is going to be strongly aspecting all of the outer planets now, as Mercury gets closer to 4 degrees where it will station direct. So that's just something I wanted to mention just really quick. So maybe I'll talk about that in another video. Maybe I won't. Venus also enters Cancer on this day. So the Mercury Cazimi, quote unquote, happens. And then we have Venus enter Cancer, which again is the beginning of a beautiful month-long transit until August 25th. And then yes, on August 25th, a post-shadow of Mercury ends. And to me, this Venus cycle, like I just said before, is actually one of the most beautiful transits of the year, maybe. And this conjunction, in my opinion, is probably one of the most beautiful transits of the year as well. Jupiter conjunct Venus. So to have this occur while we're wrapping up a Mercury retrograde cycle, to me, is actually really amazing. And on the world stage, guys, don't get me started, because the karma on the world is always going to manifest probably more negatively, to be honest, with these little glimmers of hope and these little wins, as I like to say, here and there. So for those who are hoping for maybe some mass revealings or for some powerful leaderships to be exposed and kind of powerful structures to kind of further crack, so we can maybe see the beginnings of a new world kind of open up. So again, there's a lot going on in the world, and I don't want to give false hope or predict anything that can bring anybody more confusion and delusion or anything like that. But this Venus in Cancer moment, I think, is going to provide some hope, if you will, some further harmony somewhere. And I mean, I can't tell you what that's exactly going to look like, but in your life, I can just advise you to look at the whole sign house that Cancer is in, and to really kind of get clear and start meditating with the Venusian quality of harmony, pleasure, peace, and just love potentially. This can be a great time to connect more harmoniously with things going on in that part of your life. So again, we'll talk more about the Venus Jupiter conjunction in just a minute, I guess, because we're going to get there. And then I think the next biggest thing, guys, that I need to talk to you about is what goes on August 7th. Now, this is when Mars enters Libra. Mars is an exile in Libra. So Mars rules Aries, which is across the zodiac, and Mars will be transiting in Libra. So whenever a planet rules a sign, but it's transiting on the opposite side, it is said to be in detriment. It is said to be in exile, which really just means it doesn't have the capacity to engage and move and behave as it would in a sign that it really enjoys being in. So Mars rules Scorpio in ancient astrology, and Mars rules Aries. So Mars in Libra is one of those energies where I like to kind of think of it as difficulty asserting one's will, navigating conflict through social graces, negotiation, and aesthetics. Okay? Action becomes strategic rather than impulsive, and justice, fairness, and partnership-driven motivation. So again, depending on where Libra is in your birth chart, of course, paints the picture of what this will look like. But just imagine Mars not really having the capacity to engage and take over and destroy and conquer and maybe cause as much conflict as somewhere else. So in a way, Mars being toned down in Libra could be a really good thing, I think, for a lot of us, so we can take a moment to breathe. But at the same time, just hold your horses there, Joe. We are going to have a grand air trine with this transit. Okay, so Mars will be sextiling, Mars will be trining Uranus. Mars will be trining Pluto and Aquarius. So again, from Mars' perspective, being the tip of this iceberg, we are going to see very powerful flows of energy to Pluto, the Aquarius part of your life, Uranus, the Gemini part of your life. So this is very interesting for high mental clarity or brilliance, especially in strategic matters. And of course, whatever is going on in Libra for you is the story here. So again, we are going to do our best to navigate some of the stories that have been accumulating already in Gemini for you, some of the erratic, sporadic, sudden insights or things that are already arriving for you in the Gemini part of your life. And of course, whatever Pluto is providing in a death and rebirth sense in Aquarius for you. So to me, grand air trines are fast moving. They're very, in this case, with Uranus and Gemini, it's going to be very mental. And with Pluto and Aquarius, this is really all about, again, how are we changing on a fundamental level in a way in which we are radicalizing and trying to do something very different in our life. So if all of you are wondering, why does it feel like I want to change everything in my life, I would just say, look to Pluto in Aquarius. Look to that part of your life, because that part of your life is kind of the anchor of this entire ship that really is the beginning and the foundation of the new life that I think we're all bound and destined to morph into. So, I mean, I know a lot of people who, again, every reading I do, wherever Aquarius is, that's where I see the most intense shamanic transformation happening. And then I see Uranus and Gemini in their charts, and I'm like, oh, well, that part of your life is feeding all of what Pluto and Aquarius is trying to do for you. Like, that's the death and rebirth, Like, Uranus is not really about death and rebirth. Uranus is just about sudden, inventive, innovation, difference, unique things, but things that are just very rapid and sudden. And Gemini is all about the mind. So we're dealing with a lot of mental stuff going on in the Gemini part of your life. But that Aquarius part of your life is extremely important to focus on, involving the entire structure of your life that is involving the shamanic death, okay, and the rebirth and regeneration that follows. So now we're getting Libra in the mix. We're getting this powerful grand trine. And Libra, again, is really a zodiac sign of balance, of diplomacy, of social stuff. So again, just like Gemini in a way, like Libra is just as sociable. It's just Libra can be a little bit less chaotic, if you ask me. And that's no offense to any Geminis out there. I'm a Gemini moon. So again, we all can kind of understand the mental chaos that we deal with maybe on a daily basis, or how much we like to engage, how curious we are, how much we like to learn. Libra is not like that. Libra is sociable in a different way, where fairness and balance and again, making things okay and having more pleasure actually is part of the deal here. So that's the thing. I think in our own life, this actually can be quite pleasant. And I think it's going to add clarity, in fact, to the Mercury retrograde stuff as well, my friends. So, I really think that this is important. And we have to kind of just keep track more on Mars in Libra and this grand trine stuff, And it's going to also go opposite Neptune and Saturn. So that's something I didn't mention here. So again, that opposition is that's the only challenging aspect to all of this, which, goes without saying, of course, being in opposition, which again, further makes this even more potent and powerful for the massive amounts of upheaval and change and transformation that Pluto and Aquarius is trying to do for us. So I really want you to examine that Aries part of your life continuously. Saturn and Neptune are retrograde. Mars is going opposite towards that, and Mars rules Aries, of course. So Mars really isn't in a place of strength to radicalize the Aries part of your life in a way that I think can blow the lid off of things. But I think this is really a beautiful time to reconcile things going on in Libra for you, especially if you have placements in Libra, because Saturn and Neptune have been going opposite. All of that stuff. So to see Mars come in, yes, it's going to churn up the waters. Yes, it can make things a little bit aggressive, but I think this is also important to note that the grand trine, the grand air trine, could be supportive. But this really is like a cataclysmic clash of the age of fire and air. And I've been saying that kind of phrase for a long time. The age of fire and air is really just these outer planet shifts, all moving into air signs and fire signs, and Mars being in Libra now, kind of bringing in this extra flavor of, just this tension, that the tension between Saturn and Neptune to Mars and Libra, I think, is what is going to propel some of the clarity moments and some of the things that crystallize into our lives, if that makes any sense. So, internal tension, and so that can kind of be a thing, because Mars really can't assert itself. So just look out for some internal tension, difficulty balancing personal dreams, with some things that are going on in the collective and other things going on in your outside world. And yeah, my friends, I mean, Mars in Libra is just going to tone things down, but at the same time accelerate maybe a lot of the other things going on in the sky with the outer planets. But I think bringing us more favorable outcomes than non-favorable outcomes. So that's something that we really need to keep our eyes on here. And again, we'll talk more about Mars and Libra in another video. So yeah, guys, the next thing I want to talk about is the full moon in Aquarius. But before I do that, I would just like to say, if you're enjoying this video thus far, I would love if you can consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video. All that stuff really helps the channel's growth, my friends. And I would love for you to join the tribe here, and also leave me comments and tell me, anything you think about upcoming August transits. And yeah, my friends, so I always love hearing from you guys in the comments. And so without further ado, let's just jump right back into talking about the full moon in Aquarius. All right, my friends, now on August 9th, we're going to have a full moon in Aquarius. This is going to be falling at 16 to 17 degrees in the second decan. This decan is ruled by Mercury, and the tarot card associated with this decan is the Six of Swords. Now, Mercury ruling this decan brings an added layer of analysis, message bearing, intellectual detachment, and narrative reframing. So again, Aquarius can be a little cold, as we all know. It's ruled by Saturn, and there could be a little bit of a detachment with emotional stuff, and all Aquarius placements kind of know that might be the deal. And I think with this full moon, obviously we all know full moons are revealings. They're the ending of a lunation cycle from new moon in Aquarius to full moon in Aquarius. But this is also the culmination from that last big new moon in Leo we just had. So again, because that new moon in Leo was such a powerful seeding and trigger from new moon to this full moon cycle, I think anything that has been going on in the news cycle, we could talk about the Epstein shit. We could talk about a lot of stuff going on in the world, including involving powerful figures. So I wouldn't be surprised if this full moon maybe brings us more of that kind of revealing, or things that can be like furthering the collapse of the, I don't know, the collective consciousness of what is corrupt and what is not corrupt. So I think we have to see on the world stage how this particular full moon plays out, because, you know, when I do my bigger videos, I do touch on world events and collective stuff every now and then. And I think this full moon in Aquarius is going to be massive. But in our own life, guys, like, we're dealing with the Aquarius part of our life, okay? And I feel like I've been talking about all the outer planets ad nauseum for months now. So we have to look at Aquarius. It's one of the big zodiac signs that will be in our conversation for many, many years to come. So this is a transit in which something will be revealed to you, and I think it will involve leaving something behind, okay? Now, on the world stage, when we look to the Six of Swords, this is why I'm bringing this up. You know, the Six of Swords really is about leaving something behind, whether we like it or not, whether we're afraid or not, or whether we don't know where the destination is or not. We have to somehow move ahead and move forward sometimes, and we have to do so without feeling so much. We have to sometimes use our logic, just knowing something is right for us to walk away from. Now, on the world stage, I don't know how this is going to manifest, but I think the classic symbol of the Six of Swords, and just again, think about the Aquarius part of your life when I talk here, leaving behind what no longer serves, moving from troubled waters to calmer shores. I think we all know some part of our life in the Aquarius part of our life, some experience that we have there, in which deep in our hearts we know we have to move on from. And where the sun is shining in Leo also paints a picture on what this story could be. So, you know, in my life, I could tell you right now where Leo is shining in my chart, and the moon where it will be illumined in Aquarius very much paints a picture of something I know in my life, a place in my life I know I need to shine brighter in. It's extremely important for me to activate more of my Leo-ness in the Leo part of my life, but there is something in the Aquarius part of my life that does hold me back, guys. There is something there that has been holding me back for quite some time. And I think it's time in my life for me to really come to terms with, how do I really move on from this situation? How do I emotionally detach myself in this moment? And I'm not saying this in a spiritual bypassing type of way, but sometimes we have to, you know, become stoics, and we have to really, you know, use our intellect and our logic and go, you know what? I know in my mind that this is important for me to walk away from. I know in my mind that this is important for me to move away from, even if it's just for a little while, because there's something else that I need to embrace. There is something else I need to learn about myself. And again, that Leo part of your life may tell that story. Now, during this full moon, Mercury is also at its station degree at 4 degrees, and it will be making its strongest aspects to all of the outer planets. So this is really important to note, because the Mercury retrograde story, I think, is a part of this. So again, everything you've been trying to figure out, or all the stories that have been playing out in the Leo part of your life, involving the review, the reflection, the decision making in the Leo part of your life with this Mercury retrograde moment, and every other outer and all the outer planets that are affecting it. This is the strongest it's going to be since Mercury was last at 4 degrees when it entered pre-shadow June 30th. So this full moon literally happening Like, just as Mercury is hovering retrograde, it is not direct yet. So again, this is why I think this full moon is going to be massive, guys. And on the world stage, I definitely think something's going to be revealed. I mean, I don't want to say that this is when the Epstein files like really come out in full force, but this story isn't going anywhere, guys. And I just don't know what else this could possibly represent, because Pluto and powerful figures, Pluto in Aquarius is going to bring down and collapse powerful structures, powerful figures in this world. It's going to transform the leadership of the world in many ways as time unfolds. And right now we're dealing with the zodiac sign of leadership, where the sun is, where Mercury has just concluded essentially a massive retrograde by this point. And then the integration phase begins a couple of days later, which is really the next thing I want to talk about, to be honest, which is August 11th. Mercury goes direct at 4 degrees. It'll be aspecting all the outer planets, like I just said. And this is when the post-shadow phase begins. So, guys, I really don't have much else to say on the full moon in Aquarius before I move on. But again, full moons are revealings. Look to the Aquarius part of your life. We're dealing with a 6 of Swords energy, walking away, moving on to calmer shores from a turbulent place. Again, on the world stage, I'm not going to start delineating and predicting things that I'm not 100% certain on, of course. And I think this Mercury retrograde is tying into this story in a big way. And Mercury ruling this Decan, guys, again, we're dealing with fast-moving information, analysis. We're dealing with the way that information is shared. So again, that just adds more to the idea that things involving files or information, communication, this is really a massive part of all of this. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had to have maybe some difficult conversations involving that Aquarius part of your life. Okay. So again, just really zero in on the Aquarius part of your life, and, leave some comments and let me know if you have any intuitions on what this 6 of Swords energy might be for you. Now, August 11th, Mercury goes direct at 4 degrees, and Jupiter and Venus will have their conjunction in Cancer at 13 degrees. So again, mental clarity coming into focus. All the things we just talked about, Mercury is still going to awaken things that we've been processing. Renewed sense of inner alignment will probably come for a lot of us. And I think that this full moon stuff, right? Again, once we get past that realization of the 6 of Swords energy, the clarity will come. The insights will come. The final message drops. Insights or decisions that we were building since June 30th will crystallize. And now we have a chance to integrate them during the integration phase. So again, I think for us, this is where August really gets awesome. And then Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Cancer, this is kind of where we start to see the Cancer part of our life, I think, become even more blessed, harmonious, maybe even more pleasurable. I just had a client the other day who's moving somewhere, and she's been really having a hard time. And I told her, hey, the day that you're moving to this particular place, and you don't really know anyone there right now, I guarantee you, and where this was falling was in her 7th house of relationships. And I'm like, listen, you're probably going to meet somebody, like when you land the plane in this particular part, where you move. And I said, you're going to be supported. You're going to find someone. I'm not saying this is romantic or not, but you're going to find relationships of some kind that I think bring you harmony, pleasure, beauty. And I think that Cancer part of your life, because what she went through throughout the winter was kind of hard. I said, this is kind of a massive blessing for the rest of August. And I think we have to look at this Mercury station direct as a part of that story. Okay. So the Mercury, retrograde conclusion with the Jupiter-Venus conjunction in Cancer, to me, this is really beautiful. It's one of the most benefic, heart-centered, lush connections of the year, guys. I'm not lying when I say that. So I think our emotional generosity and our emotional states are going to get balanced out in a way that I think we haven't seen in a long time in the Cancer part of our life. And, I really talk about astrological magic sometimes here on the channel, and the courses that I'll be putting out next year, there's going to be a lot of, chapters, I guess you can say, lessons in some of these mini courses, and this big, training program that I'm putting together. There's a lot of segments that involve astrological magic, because anything that I teach, guys, I want you to understand the power of understanding where transits are happening, when they are happening, what theme of life, the whole sign house it's falling in for you, and how to properly do ritual with these planets as they're unfolding, and even as they're leading up to their profected aspect. Because if we can learn to consciously connect with these planets, visualize high timelines that we would like to have manifest, then this is really important for us this is important for manifestation. This is important for literally shifting reality in a way that can literally be magical, because that's literally what astrological magic is. It's about doing ritual. It's about meditating, visualizing, and yes, we could be making actual physical objects in respect for the transit itself. So I would just say, for this Venus-Jupiter transit in Cancer, maybe look up on Google or something on how to do some basic astrological magical rituals. But again, if you're sticking around with me in the future and you're interested in learning from me too, I can't wait to be your teacher involving some of that stuff. But just for some brief tips, just sit in meditation or go be near water this month. Try to be near as much water as possible. Meditate with that Cancer part of your life, and just say to yourself, wow, this is my 7th house of relationships, for example. And imagine what type of harmonious, fulfilling, blessed, expansive relationships that can grow with you throughout the future, to have them come into your life, whether that's online, whether that's in the physical form. Again, this is an example for the 7th house. But so again, and you can sit there and feel into it. Feel into it, pray, maybe ask ChatGPT to give you a prayer. Literally type in, hey, I want to have an astrological magical ritual around Jupiter and Venus conjunction that is happening, blah, 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 this day. It's happening in this house for me. And maybe even put a little personal information in there on what's been going on in your life. And you know what? Like, this is where I think a little bit of artificial intelligence can benefit us, just by giving us a little bit of insight and a little bit of pep in our step and inspiration to do a ritual. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, I have a lot to say actually in a class I'm going to be doing next year as well on the ethics of AI. So I know this is becoming a powerful conversation in astrology right now, artificial intelligence, but I do think that there is a way that we can reconcile and use it with astrology that does not wipe out the existence of astrologers, but there is a way we can use it for research and for expansiveness that can be very beneficial. But again, that's a conversation for another day. But this Venus-Jupiter conjunction, just some advice, my friends, just some advice, because I think we have a moment to heal some more things in that Cancer part of your life, okay? And I think a little astrological magic can really accelerate that and bring some added triage to any wounds that were inflicted over the winter with the Mars retrograde and the Mars direct, guys, because I know a lot of us were still experiencing a lot of that aggressive stuff maybe when Mars was going direct in Cancer. But and then maybe if things were going well for you with Mars in Cancer, this can be the added blessings to enhance more of that, because in my life, mine wasn't so terrible. My Mars in Cancer transit wasn't so terrible at all. It was actually very good, in my opinion. I got a lot of work done and had to review a lot of things. But now that Jupiter is there, I've been feeling much more expansive there. So again, I feel very powerful in a way in how I'm growing in the Cancer part of my life now. So for me, having Venus enter the chat, I think this is going to be beautiful for me to maybe get a little bit more heart-centered, to get a little bit more, just a little bit more Venusian. I don't really know how to describe it when I'm talking about my own life here. Yeah, my friends, and honestly, one of the last things I want to talk about today, aside from the last thing of the month, really is Venus entering Leo, but I might save that for another day. But Venus in Leo actually is really important, so maybe I will touch on that for a second. But this new moon in Virgo, okay, August 23rd, It's happening in the first decan. This decan is ruled by the sun. The Eight of Pentacles rules this decan. Okay. A 0 degree new moon, some would say this is the critical degree. This is really important to note. This is also when eclipse season begins. And we talked about the Eight of Pentacles before when Mars entered Virgo. So again, this can be a powerful new moon about focus, steady work, building skill and character. So I think with the sun also ruling this decan, we're dealing with solar precision, clarity, confident clarity to get things done there. So wherever Virgo is for you in your birth chart, this is a powerful seeding, And I think we have a moment here to refine our skill sets in whatever Virgo is for you, to really get clear on something we want to birth into the future. And this also very much sets up a lot of what eclipse season can start to be, because again, we're going to have an eclipse in Virgo at the end of September, a really big eclipse at the end of September. Okay. So to me, this decan and this new moon combines craftsmanship and ego. This needs to be really reconciled. Okay, what are we doing there? What are we building in our life in Virgo? And how is this going to shine in the service that you give to the world? Okay, radiant service. This is something that I feel we're all going to be faced with. How are you showing up in the Virgo part of your life? How are you acting there? What are you doing? Is really my question to you, because we need to get focused, more focused than ever before in that Virgo part of our life, because this really is a powerful seeding point, guys, that I think can really be setting up the Virgo experiences in your life for many years to come. Like, I'm not even joking. This is something that I can look at in my life and go, whoa, this is stuff that's going on in the Virgo part of my life. And I'm just like, damn, the things that I'm working on right now and the things that I'm participating in the Virgo part of my life are really important for so many things that I can see for years to come. So what I'm doing now in the Virgo part of my life has the potential to really be a legacy thing for me. So that's the thing. Like, my vision and goals for the Virgo part of my life are massive. And the Mars ingress that happened in the beginning of the summer really highlighted some of the things I needed to start chipping away at, really starting to put my Eight of Pentacles energy into. And this new moon, I think, is kind of like a massive, like, seeding. It's like, wow, what have I done all summer? Like, what did I do while Mars was in Virgo the whole time? Because now this new moon is giving us that portal to really have those intentions and those visualizations for something really beautiful to come as the future unfolds, you know? So this aligns perfectly with Virgo's nature, because we're building habits that are going to evolve the soul. And I think that's also something we need to recognize, that the work that we're doing in Virgo right now, the stuff that's going on in Virgo right now, is very soul-based oriented. And I'm saying that because we're really, and we're in an eclipse cycle where Virgo is a part of this story. So Virgo is just getting its engine started, because the only massive eclipse that we had in Virgo was really over the winter, right? We had a massive lunar eclipse in March. And the second round of eclipses are coming at the end of September for Virgo. Massive solar eclipse at 29 degrees. So we're having this new moon at the critical degree at 0, and the solar eclipse will be happening at the anaretic degree. And in the middle of all this, we've had a Mars transit, okay, throughout the entire summer. So this is why the Virgo stuff is so important. Now, this new moon will also be squaring Uranus, okay, which to me on the world stage, this is what's also going to be triggering and foreshadowing maybe the potency of the eclipses for the world, and how that Virgo energy might manifest on the world stage. But also, this square is important for us to acknowledge for the Gemini stuff in our life, guys, because the Gemini stuff, the Gemini themes and the Virgo themes are not going to be at odds, but there's a lot of growing that needs to be done there. Okay, there's a lot of growing that needs to be done there. There's a lot of maturity that needs to be evolved there. And I say maturity because the Eight of Swords requires us, the Eight of Pentacles rather, requires us to be focused, steady, mature as we chip away, as we build, as we stay focused into what we are trying to manifest for our futures. And that requires maturity. That doesn't require fucking around, partying, and getting crazy. This is like, okay, we need to get serious about the Gemini part of our life and the Virgo part of our life. You know what I mean? So the disruption to the routines of the Virgo stuff is important to note. So, there could be disruptions. Of course there can. We can't deny disruptions with Uranus, but the radical changes that we are now facing in all of the other astrology is going to now bring Virgo into the mix. So again, the radical changes and shifts of the things that you've been doing in Virgo for many years in your recent past. Like, this is where things kind of start changing in the biggest ways since I can't remember the last time. Because again, really get clear on what Virgo has been for you. I could reflect for me, the Virgo part of my life really has been kind of status quo for a couple of years, to be honest. And only in recent 12 months or so has it really changed in a way that I've never expected it in my life to change. So I am navigating like the Virgo part of my life now in a very radical, different way where it's very foreign territory for me. And of course, Uranus entering Gemini is stirring the pot. It's, bringing in radical change and different things that I have never experienced before in my life either. And of course, now we're going to be faced with some Gemini energy straight up towards Virgo. So even though this isn't eclipse season official yet, even though this isn't an eclipse just yet, this begins the subtle, deep shifts and ripples that Virgo will ultimately manifest for you in the future. So this new moon opens a portal to eclipse season, guys. Energetically, this is a seed moment that grows into greater karmic or destined events. Eclipses coming will bring reordering of priorities and revelations around what you do and how you do them in Virgo. Okay? So this is really, really big. And this new moon, I think, will also purify some stuff as well. So during all this chaos, there, I think, will be some enlightenments and some purifications around some things. And I think this could be the shakeup and the awakenings we need so we can really embody the Eight of Pentacles energy of getting to work, of staying focused. And even during the storms of some of the chaos we might experience still a little bit with the squares from Uranus, this, to me, will still provide us, I think, with, again, purification and some clarity around things, because we're going to know maybe what we need. We're going to know what we need. We're going to know what we need to birth at some point and at a later date. So again, I think August really is about coming out of this fog of confusion with Mercury retrograde. We have these massive lunation cycles. We have Jupiter and Venus conjunct in Cancer, which again is one of the most beautiful transits of the entire year, in my opinion. And then at the way end of this month, guys, we have Venus entering Leo. So again, Venus entering Leo is pretty damn big. And again, after everything that we've been experiencing in Leo, and Mercury will still be in Leo, of course, for a majority of August, obviously. But Venus enters the chat August 25th, and this is right as Mercury ends its pre-shadow phase, I believe, or the pre-shadow phase ends for the new moon. Am I mistaken with that? Or it ends with, yeah, I believe it ends around this new moon, the post-shadow phase for Mercury. So again, Venus enters right as the Mercury retrograde stories are wrapping themselves up. And Venus will bring, again, some of that harmonious pleasure and just beauty and softness to the fires of Leo. And I think we'll be able to passionately get a little bit more, I don't want to say loving, but again, things can get really nice when Venus enters Leo. But again, it's going to be aspecting all of the outer planets, so get ready for another massive story to unfold with all of the outer planet transits and how Venus could be affecting them, especially the opposition to Pluto, because again, that's going to be really interesting after all the things we've been seeing unfold on the world stage. So yeah, my friends, that's all I have for you for this forecast. I hope it was digestible. There is so much more to come as the future unfolds with my other videos. You know, I get so much more specific. I mean, I only really touched the iceberg here, and sometimes I feel I can get a little confusing and all over the place, but I really do hope you kind of got a grasp of some of the energy that I'm intuitively feeling into this month. That being said, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and definitely subscribe if you're new. And yeah, if you would like to book any readings with me, links down below. All right, guys, much love.